So Paul, this week sees the publication of the first chapter of the free ISIS International eChem ebook on the new normal and its impact on the chemical industry. Can you explain the key principles of the new normal and why the industry should take note of it?
Thank you, Will. Yes, the key principle of the new normal is really simple and is related to our everyday lives. It's all about the number of babies being born, which when they grow up and get into the sort of 25 to 54 age group, that's when people tend to consume a lot more, because when you get to be about 25, people typically marry, settle down, have children, so they start buying houses, they start buying cars, they start buying electronic equipment, all of which are the key drivers for chemical demand. So as we got into that period, the post-war period was really very interesting, because from 46 to 1970 we had a 33 million increase in the number of babies born across the G7, that's the world's wealthiest countries, and even more if you look across the whole of Europe, as well as North America and Japan. So a major increase in the number of babies being born. As they came into that 25 to 54 age group, so we saw this surge in demand for housing, for cars, for electronics. And now, and this is why we're calling it the new normal, these same babies have grown up. They're like myself, they've reached the 55 plus age group, when again people typically spend less and save more. And our generation has to save more because our life expectancy, luckily, this is a good thing, has it been increased by 10 years versus our parents, but it just means we have to save more. So the question then becomes, is the generation behind us as large, in which case we don't see a change? Unfortunately, no. It's quite different. It's 38 million babies fewer. So it's even smaller than the pre-war generation. Therefore, demand is going to be down 16%. You can't fight the numbers. So this is why we're calling it a new normal, and it's going to have major impact not only obviously in the West, but also on the emerging economies of Asia, which have become the manufacturing centres for us in recent years.
We're seeing a lot of volatility at the moment in chemical markets and commodity markets. How is this related to the new normal?
I think it's a really key indicator of the truth of what we're talking about here, what we're seeing. Because when did we last see all this volatility in commodity prices and financial markets? We saw it back in the 1970s, when all these babies were going into the transition into the 25 to 54 age group. Now they're in the transition out of it again. So the oldest baby boomer is actually 65 this year, and the average is 53. So they're all moving out of this. This has enormous implications for demand, because demand is reducing. And central banks and policymakers in the States, in Europe, in China as well, seem to have completely missed this demographic trend. Therefore, what are they doing? They've reduced interest rates to zero. They're pumping out money, printing money like mad. In China, they doubled bank lending and then maintained it there for 2 years. Major lending going on in the States. And what are you trying to do? You're trying to stimulate demand from people like myself. We don't want a new car anymore. We don't need a bigger house because the kids have left home and so on. So the demand is just not there. And what you've got is liquidity fueling speculative rallies. And this is why you get the volatility, because the underlying fundamentals are unsound.
And do you think there's some sort of correction around the corner for the chemical sector, and when do you think it might happen? How big might it be?
Well, Will, you and I did a rather famous interview at Monte Carlo EPCA in September 2008, where when I look back on it, I went out on a bit of a limb and I said, look, we're in the middle of a major crisis here. Now, I don't want to say that we're in the middle of a major crisis here, and we may not be, because crude oil price has stabilised at the moment. We can't say, as we did in September 2008, that it's definitely on the way down. But what we are seeing from all around the world is that the build-up of demand that we've seen in the last quarter is proving to be pretty fickle. So buyers who came into the new year desperate for a product. I mean, crude oil jumped 35% in the first 4 months of this year, 35%. If you're running a business, I ran businesses of $1 billion. You buy in real time and you sell 3 or 6 months ahead. So all your purchasing managers have to go out there, they have to buy forward as much as they can to try and protect your margins. So we got a real surge in demand in the first quarter. Is it being sustained in the second quarter? No. Buyers are buying, as we said in the blog, hand to mouth. we've got stockpiles building up now. My co-author John Richardson of the book is reporting this week about stockpiles in Saudi. Malini is reporting about stockpiles in India. Weakness in pricing all over the place. Now, of course, if crude jumps up again for one reason or another, then that will disappear. But if not, well, I think we could well be seeing a destocking period, and we'll have to wait and see just how bad that gets.
So that could happen in the over the next few weeks, months?
I think frankly it's already happening. What we can't say yet is that it's for real, because unlike 2 years ago, we haven't actually seen the oil price come down a long way. We've seen it go $15 or so, which is quite a lot, but it could bounce back. So let's be a bit cautious about that. But if I was a chemical company, I would be definitely saying, let's look at our stock levels and let's, for goodness sake, check what's happening downstream. Not with the converters, but with the retail customers. Are they doing well or not? Because all that I can see from the retailers is that life is actually pretty bad down with the end consumer.
Are there any other strategies that companies can adopt to succeed with this new normal?
Well, this is an encouraging thing. I mean, yes, we've probably got a short-term problem here, and it probably could be quite a big problem because we've had a big run-up in crude, which isn't justified by supply, demand or inventories. But let's look further ahead than that. Let's look at the opportunities of this new normal. What are we seeing? We're seeing wealthy, aging consumers who are going to want different types of things as they get older. They're not going to stop wanting to buy things, they're just going to want different things, just not houses and cars and so on. So a bit of innovation is required. Equally, take India and China, a really major move now of people into the first stages of consumption. We talk about the middle class in the West, and we talk about incomes of $25,000, $50,000 and so on. In India and China, of course, we're talking about incomes of $1,000 to $5,000 for the middle class. So we mustn't get confused by that. But these people have got money to buy something for the first time. They can buy soap. They can buy new cars, like Tata's Nano car, for example. There's a whole range of things that are within their grasp. Now, we as a chemical industry, this is the mega trends argument. Let's look at the things where we've really got skills and competencies, like dealing with water supplies, a critical issue, dealing with carbon footprint, sustainability. Let's put our innovation into these areas, and I'm absolutely confident that the companies of the future that do that will be very successful indeed, just as we've been in the old normal.
Thanks very much, Paul.
Thank you, Will.